Okay, thank you very much for coming back. That was really unfair. I know you're a captive audience. Okay, a couple things that I was asked to go over again was the implosion of third density and what that really entails. And I know I kind of skimmed over it. So what I'm going to do is to share with you what I have been told. Now, some of you may understand the physics of this better than I do. I'm just basically the messenger, one of the messengers. Okay, according to the Andromedans, 21 trillion years ago, as we are in linear time, apparently all of us as essences, as isness, as sparks of spirit, were someplace else in a completely different reality. And what they say happened was that the Big Bang Theory is basically correct in its simplicity, but the physical part that we know of was the last of the creations or realms created in what we call our universe. Okay, now when I'm referring to universe, I want you to know that I am talking about all of the 11 creational densities or planes. That'll make it simpler for you. What they say happened was that all the black holes were created because wherever we were, that space, that universe began to evolve. And as it evolved, those of us who weren't ready to evolve literally gained weight in mass. Okay? And in gaining weight, we started to fill black holes. And at some point, when this other universe evolved to a certain frequency, those of us that didn't literally broke out of those black holes and created this space which we call our universe. And what we're witnessing 21 trillion years later is the same thing happening. And what happens here is, what's happening now in our universe is that according to Mornay and Faceas, on March 23rd of 1994, a color and sound frequency started emanating out of all of the black holes. And the color and sound literally, in its unified effect, is attaching to all of the densities or planes. What's happening is that it's raising all the frequencies. Everything is literally being pulled up from the bootstraps. It is literally creating a holograph over these 11 creational planes. They're calling this the 12th. And the reason they are is that it is unified, but yet it's separate. And that they have been told by other races that there are beings of consciousness never seen the likes of before inside this 12th. And that they literally have the ability to look straight down through all the dimensional levels. What's happening is that third density is beginning to implode because as the frequency starts to rise of third density matter, those that choose to evolve, there are a greater number who are in fear and will not be making the same transition we will be. Now, because we're spirit, the essence of us is spirit, nothing ever dies, literally nothing. So what is happening is that there are black holes being created as we speak. There are dips, literal dips in physicality being created where people will be gathering, souls will be gathering as they make their transition into these spaces so that they can continue to evolve by literally creating another space. Unfortunately, one of these areas is between us and the dog star Sirius, which is why there's so much crap coming our way. Okay, you got a front row seat. And all I can tell you is, bless them as they make their transition. Because we've been there before, all of us. And I've been told on our planet that literally the probability is there will only be 400 million of us making this transition. It's a sad thing. It's a sad thing. It would be nice if it was everybody. And when you get to fifth density, look for the house with the mailbox with the balloons. That's my house. I'll have everything there, sandwiches, you just show up. I'm serious. I'll have to get a job. What was the other thing? Okay. Now, going back to the genetics that I shared with you about us having the 22 different races and the primate race, and because of our apparent essences, where we've been on a spiritual level and then decided to come back and start this thing all over again, what's happening is we can apparently, our DNA can vibrate because of our ability to hold the extremes of emotion inside of us. Our DNA can vibrate at such a frequency, a high frequency, we can hold so much energy that we can literally take our experiences from here and part of our physicality into the fifth plane, fifth density. Now, when this happens, we radically will change what they know. Okay, this is why when people say, well, geez, Alex, why don't they just intervene? There's more to that than you think, because when they come down here and they commingle with us, it not only changes our reality, it changes their reality. And a little piece of us goes back with them. Now, if most of you, let's just for example, we're from Andromeda, okay? You all evolve, you all lift up, you all move into fifth density, and then you decide, I'm going home, and you're off. And we all march into Andromeda together. Their civilization, their reality will never be the same. And this is why many of the races, particularly the benevolents, are coming back, because they want a heads up. They want to know what to expect. They want to know who we are. Do you follow what I'm trying to say? Okay, now the negatives, they've got everything really nice where they live. They got everything under control, and they have their caste systems. All right? They don't want us walking in there. Let's say some of you are from Orion. They don't want you going in there and wreaking havoc. Start teaching them about free will, about freedom. They don't want that. Okay, just because they're at another level doesn't mean they're that all evolved. There's still crap there too. Okay? And they have a vested interest in control systems, control factors. And they don't want anybody rocking the cart, especially a race that they consider to be beasts. And what's really interesting is they created their own undoing. They really did. By tinkering and everything else. And all it would take would be one of you to go in there and change one of these systems. Just your frequency alone. So you truly are royalty. You know, you guys are just awesome. And the war is about that. The war that's coming is literally because there are benevolent races that want our experience. They want our DNA. They want our emotions. They want us to be teachers. Because many of the benevolent races have lost their passion, folks. They've lost their passion. You know, for the Greys themselves, they thought that emotion was a weakness. So they literally bred it out. And now they're dying. Okay? They're dying, and they're totally stuck on technology. Their children, they're not having children anymore because there's no passion in the body. The spirit cannot attach to the physical form. And there are other races like this. There are other races, and I was told by Mornay that the Pleiadians in 982 years in our linear time would start showing genetic breakdown because of so much interbreeding within the one race. Okay? We offer a booster to that because we have their genetics, you know, as well as others, but we also have the passion. You know, the ability to hold passion, which is an awesome creative force. So there are some that really want us to be there, and there are some that are terrified of us being there. And that's really what it's about. The effects of what's going on here between now and 2013 are long-term. Apparently, almost 400 years into our future, there's tyranny. So what happens here is a major consequence because of who we are. And whatever we do here on third density, moving into fifth density, we will literally change 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It'll have a domino effect all the way up. Because apparently that's where we originally came from before we moved into physicality here. So we have to be responsible. There's a much bigger agenda here in picture. And I'm sure that there's even more that I don't know that maybe another contactee in the future or somebody else has already said. You know, you have to be private investigators. You've got to be detectives. And I know that there's so much information out there and so much junk and there's so much great stuff out there. But you're literally going to have to weed it through yourselves. No one has all the answers. No one. There might be some that have more of the pieces of the puzzle. But the bottom line is, every single one of you in this room, even the people outside the room who aren't here sharing this, who have no clue, who still think ET is a joke, they have a piece of the puzzle. They just may not be able to bring their piece to the puzzle when we move into fifth density or plane. Okay. What's going to happen in the next 10 years? I have no clue. Hey, that's a pretty good cop-out. Okay. You're going to be busy. If it's in this pile. The reason I'm going through this is so I want to make sure I get it right. A lot is going to happen in the next 10 years. I'm sorry, I needed a thicker folder. Anyway,
Alex, it's me.
I thought it was God. I'm not building an ark. You can just forget it.
All right, when is the collapse, the dimensional collapse starting? Is it already starting?
It's already started.
With the sound and the color?
Okay. It's already started. Thank you for leading me here. What you're going to start hearing about in the very near future are something called rods. And they will be something that will be videotaped, and what you will see are large streaks just shooting through the air that are etheric, but are being able to be captured on tape. And what you're seeing is literally fourth and fifth dimensional craft moving through space, not having the slightest clue that they're flying right through us. Okay? And that's because you're beginning to see the implosion. It's great stuff.
And ghosts?
Yes, you'll see more ghosts, more apparitions, because those that are stuck between third and fourth density will start being more and more visible as our frequency starts to raise and rise. A lot of them, unless they are healed, and I do not know how to do that, how to set them free from their self-imposed prisons, will be exiting, transitioning. Angels, folks, be very careful about somebody who tells you they're an angel. For example, I've asked about the archangels. And the Andromedan perspective of that is that the archangel Michael was literally a fleet of craft that were called Michael. That was the name of the fleet. And they used to patrol the northern hemisphere of the planet when Orion was here in full force. Gabriel was the name of another fleet of craft, and so on and so forth. It has been changed and created into something that will save you and rescue you, when in fact, that was not the original intent at all. Okay? What's going to happen in the next 10 years? I will share this with you. There are definitely some things underneath the Sphinx, but the bulk of the real stuff that will tell us about our ancient history is still underneath the pyramid. And there was a vault built 3 levels deep, and the pyramid was built over it. Okay, that's where the real juice is. That's where the real knowledge is. The Sphinx will have some things, but it's a distraction. You know, these guys are real good at what they do, at diverting attention from reality, from truth. They're excellent at it. If they put that much energy into telling the truth, God, we'd all be out of here. You know? Okay, hold on one sec. I don't have it somewhere. Okay, things that are going to happen in the next 10 years. Number one, we're going to truly find out who we are genetically. Information will be coming from all corners of the earth from contactees. There will be more and more contacts, and they will tell us about the 22 different races and more of our history. There will also be massive earth changes. They will start with a magnetic pole shift, which could happen anytime between now and the year 2001. Things have been sped up. We're already starting to see the magnetic poles shift as we see birds migrate in the wrong direction at the wrong times of year. The birds move along the Earth's magnetic grid lines. And I wanted to share something with you. I'm very fascinated with the Native Americans. And I love to collect feathers when I find them on my journeys and my vision quests. And I was given this on 3/19 of 94, and I just want to share this with you. It's primarily about the Native Americans and the original intent behind them wearing the feather. In the ancient way, your native red American races understood the nature of the birds. The birds are very sensitive to magnetic fields and microwave energy, as you call it. They will migrate along the Earth energy grids, and their wings, which are made up primarily of feathers, were to be watched as they were very sensitive. To watch and follow the birds is to know which way the Earth's magnetic flows are moving. They would also, the Native American races, camp off these magnetic flows because the radiation would become harmful in time. The feathers are very sensitive to energy fields and magnetic fields. They are, in fact, an antenna. The feather would attract telepathic communication with all the tribe. As the chief would think or quietly discuss plans, the rest of the tribe would, in the ancient days, receive the message with few or no words. Isn't that cool? Now, what's really interesting is that most of our cities are built on the magnetic grids. When, you know, there's a lot of folks sick in the inner city. There's a lot of turmoil in the inner cities. Okay? Because we're not in balance. And of course, we persecuted the Indians because their knowledge was different than ours. Okay. The quiet science of archaeology has and will discover more and more of our ancient history, including extraterrestrial civilizations. There is going to be the acknowledgement of a temple complex that belonged to Lemuria that is apparently still intact, lying approximately 150 miles southwest of Easter Island. I'm told it's huge. I've also been told the Russians already know it's there. They have photographed it and explored it in mini submarines. We are going to discover that consciousness, I know you guys already know this, but for those who aren't here, we are going to discover that consciousness is not in the brain, but is located in its entirety in the energy field and or aura. And that energy field is the 4 to 14 ounces the body loses at the moment of death. Okay, I know you guys know that. Let's see. UFOs. Okay, apparently there have been discussions amongst benevolent councils, and I will only speak for the Andromeda Council because that's what Morane has told me, that they have told all of the negative extraterrestrials in and or on our planet and on the moon to be out of here no later than August 12th, the year 2003. I've also been told that there's a very high probability that we could wake up some morning in that area of time and our moon will not be here. That is because it is the first stage of defense. And they will literally hit it with a tractor beam and pull it away from us if they're going to do battle. Because if they were to attack it to get in here for whatever reason and it were to explode, everything would be for naught. Now, when I first talked about this, there were some people that were very upset. Well, geez, what about the ocean and the waves and my moon cycle and all this other stuff? So I went back to Mornay and I says, you know, hey, I've got, you know, some gripes about the moon disappearing. And he says, well, we'll just get you another one. And I says, you'll make sure it won't be hollow, right? He says, yes. So apparently all that would really happen would be that the oceans would become lakes. We wouldn't have the tides, and we probably wouldn't have the crazy attitudes and such like that. I've asked them about astrology, and I want you to know this is their perspective. Okay? Does everybody hear what I just said? Okay. Their perspective is that it's not accurate. That the purpose for charting the stars, what originally we were taught and left with, was because they needed to know the magnetic flows of the stars and the systems for space travel. And that somehow we have taken that and made an entirely new, different belief system out of that knowledge. You knew that. Maybe I should sit out here. It's an option, huh? Let's do some questions. Let's do some questions. Yes.
Alex, why are the Andromedans and the council, which I thought was intriguing, the council that met, why did they decide to give the ultimatum to all the ETs that are in the earth and on the earth and above the earth at a specific time? And I think it's also of interest that some of the council rebelled and didn't want to send anything into here. So why, okay, Alex, why? What's going to happen when everything's turned off? No, I have a good memory, Alex. And then number two, I forgot number two. Great memory.
Well, let me answer the first one. Some memory. Okay. Let me answer the first one. Let me answer the first one. Okay. Apparently, the reason why they want to help and so many others want to help is because in your genetics, you have a frequency that is attached to different races. Okay? I have a frequency that is attached to Andromeda. And what happens is, they as a race, just because I may move into another space in time or holograph, there is a part of me that is still attached to them. Okay? And there is a degree of non-evolution because of the law of consistency, we all don't move together. At some point, whenever that is, our entire universe, including all of the dimensions or planes, will implode and we will all go home to the source. Okay? This is one of the reasons why. The other reason, of course, is what I stated earlier, is because of our genetics. They want us to help them. We have something they need as well. Now, apparently when they first met to discuss our solar system, which is in a particular sector, which is along a trade route, which moves into the Andromedan galaxy and others galaxies. There were approximately 72 of the 133 originally that met. Of the 72, just more than half agreed to look into it and to help us. The other planetary races didn't want to help us, and this was their reason why. They don't respect their home, they don't respect themselves, and they don't respect each other. What is their value? I cried that night when I heard this. Because, you know, I couldn't make an excuse. I mean, this is how a bunch of other races look at us. You know? Fortunately, a majority had agreed to help because of the consequences long term. And basically that's why they're here. That's one of the reasons why they're here. Also, in our future, 400 years into our linear future, there is tyranny in our galaxy. And somehow we are directly connected to that event or events. So in one way, they're really looking out for their own best interests by making sure that something is cleaned up here, that that something comes into balance. And they know that as long as the other ETs that are here, the extraterrestrial races that are here, and are manipulating, we won't move. So they have to be removed. And I asked, would you do it by force? And he said, we would have to. And what they would do is they would enter the poles and then flush everybody out to the surface. So folks, when you see a reptilian crossing the highway, don't run over them, just get out of the way. Okay? I mean, it could get really, really weird here in the next 6-8 years. I mean, you can only hide a truth for so long, and then it just screams out. And they're already trying to prepare you for this stuff. I have a lot of friends telling me about a TV show called Dark Skies, where they're literally telling you, but they're doing it in a way that you think it's just, television. And I don't watch TV. We don't watch TV, so I miss a lot of good stuff, but, I always hear about it. And I think that was it. So now we can go to the questions. Wait, what? Okay, ma'am.
Yes, hello, and what I want to tell you and ask you as a consequence is, are you familiar with a book called The Greatest Story Never Told by Lana Cantrell? It's a book about 1,000 pages, and she describes in her research that we did used to have a green skin, and we were copper-based, and she also described all these color changes that we went through based on her research. Now this book is literally small print, 1,000 pages, and I'm not through with it. But she also said the problems, describes the physiological problems that we have because of the lack of zinc, copper, and what the iron is doing to us, and what it did to us. Because our physiology changed, our mentality and who we were narrowed totally. So you
What's the question?
Confirm to me this.
Okay.
And my question is, did they tell you anything that we could do for ourselves to help ourselves to go back? That's one part. The other thing is the genetics, the DNA. We apparently used to have multi-strand DNA. Do you know anything about it? And do we need it in our evolution? The third part is, did we used to have a whole brain that wasn't divided, and do you know anything about that?
Okay, thank you very much. I do not know about the whole brain part. As far as the book, I've heard of it. I've had other people approach me, but I understand it's out of print. And I understand that Ms. Cantrell does not return letters or anything. She's just basically in hiding for whatever her reasons are. As far as the DNA, I have been told that those of us who are holding a higher frequency are literally creating a third strand. Most of the children coming in since 1982 already have a third strand. So this is just nature's way, this is the isness's way of just fixing things, as long as we're open to it. Okay. Okay, the question was, how can we help ourselves? I have asked that, and Mornay, all he has said is the information and wisdom already exists on your planet. So basically, don't ask us about yourselves, ask yourself about yourself. There's no shortcuts with them. I wish there were. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. It's great to see you here. I wondered if you could talk more about the Draconians and the children that are missing. I know you have information, and I'm hoping you'll share it with us today.
This is the one subject I don't like to talk about. The Draconians. Okay, the Draconians are a very large reptilian race They've been known as the Dracs. There is a royal line of the draconian reptilian race, and they're called the Seeker. They range anywhere from 14, 15 to 22 feet tall. They can weigh up to 1,800 pounds. They do have winged appendages, and they are awesome, awesome beings. They're extremely clairvoyant, they're extremely clever, and they can also be extremely sinister. They apparently were brought to our time and space, our universe, in full physicality. Somebody brought them here and dumped them here. I don't know, and the Andromedans still don't know. But they were brought here in physicality, and they were taken to Alpha Draconis and stars nearby because it gave them the greatest chance of survival. So they were kicked out of some other place. Anyway, they are definitely a major factor to be reckoned with. They, for the most part, are service to self. They do not care for the human race because when they were dumped here, they were told that this was theirs to command. So whoever did this really screwed up. And they still have this mindset. They were one of the first to chart our solar system. In fact, they were the first of the ET races to actually put their flag on it and say it's theirs. Apparently, some of them still have the attitude that everything on it, in it, still belongs to them. And I understand that some of them have been coming back, and more will be coming back. It's going to get real interesting, folks. I can't begin to tell you how interesting it's going to get. They apparently they have had space travel for 3 billion years. They are a remarkable race. They really are. But they have an attitude. And a lot of human races in our galaxy and outside our galaxy have had problems with them. And you know, I don't want to say that all of them are like that, but that's really all that I've heard from the Andromedans. They've had major problems, as all the other races have. They are definitely reptilian. They look like velociraptors, except they're like 22 feet. And they're smart, they're intelligent, they can build. They're just very, very different from us. They apparently attacked Lyra, or came across human colonies in Lyra. Now, the human race was not created in Lyra, okay? It was brought there to survive. And again, from what the Andromedans have told me, for some reason, once they go back approximately 427 million years, they just don't know what else is there. For some reason, there's no history beyond that, even though the physicality is there. So I don't know if it's being blocked from a higher level or what. They don't even know. The Draconians were flying through there. They came across these human colonies who were agricultural in nature. Basically, because of their talents of horticulture and plant science, they were literally making the planets greater and better. Little gardens. When the Draconians flew by and they saw this incredible wealth of food, they basically wanted to control it. And apparently there was a misunderstanding between the lion races then, who were human, and the reptilian race, because the Lyrians wanted to know more about the Draconians and the reptilian race before they gave them what they wanted. And apparently the Draconians misunderstood it and literally went back and then attacked the planets and killed a lot of people, blew up 3 planets. And the Lyrians were literally forced to migrate and scatter into different parts of our galaxy. So it did in a way facilitate colonization. And I wrestle with whether the Draconians were planted here specifically to force us to evolve, or if there's some other agenda here. I simply don't know that. But that's basically what I know. I do know that not only them, but others other reptilian races that are descended from them. Also, the Draconians, the reptilian races, are master geneticists. And I'm told that most of the dinosaurs and many other life forms that were on Earth were brought here then. Also on Mars. Apparently Mars was very much like the Earth at one time. And they came to Mars first. That's literally where our human form was created, by the way. Was on Mars. That's where the primate and the human genes were brought together. Was on Mars. And then we were brought here to work as slaves in the mines. Okay? So we're still working for a paycheck. And they enjoy human flesh, and they enjoy children mostly for two reasons. One, they don't have the pollutants, the caffeine, the nicotine, and things of that, all the processed foods that the adults have. And two, when they're put into a state of fear, their energy field and their adrenaline just explodes, and they get a rush from it. You know, be dedicated to family and be dedicated to each other, folks. That's the only way we're going to get through a lot of this. You know. Next question. You're welcome.
Well, my adrenaline's rushing after that last statement. Alex, what is it precisely about the human mind that makes us so worthy to be feared and suppressed? What is it that's very unique to our 22-strand genetic makeup? And also, what is our free will compared with their free will? It seems to imply that, do they have free will in the same way that we do?
Okay, is that it?
That's that question. The second thing is you haven't finished the Earth changes yet.
Thank you for busting me. I appreciate it. Okay. As far as our mind, I don't really know that it's so much the mind as it is our extremes of emotions, our essence. They've always stressed not so much what's in the mind, even though that's important to be able to control the creative force of emotions. It's more so the emotions. Because we are able to contain all of that inside physical form, that's what they're most attracted to. Because they want that, because the races have lost, I've said this before, some of their passion, and they are becoming more and more dependent on technology. And here we are steeping ourselves deeper and deeper into physicality, when in fact we have the ability to just leave all this behind. So we are not correctly using our power as a race. In fact, we're wasting it. And they're more attracted to that. And I'll do the earth changes after we've gone through a lot more questions. Okay? Next. Thank you for your patience.
We're not supposed to put many questions. I have more, but
just one.
I pick up just the most important for me. It's about implants, and if you know about specifically about the neutral implant by Cryon.
About what?
Cryon, the neutral implant. Do you know something?
I know absolutely nothing about that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but I do know a little bit about implants, and getting back, this will work together. As far as our free will compared to other races' free will, they're really one and the same. It's just that we don't realize the power of our free will. We don't totally realize the sovereignty that our free will gives us. And that is why they are manipulating us through belief systems to try to get us to relinquish our free will by using our free will to say, okay, yes, you can come down and control us. Because then it's a choice. Okay? As far as the implants, what I do know is that there are a lot of races that have been abducting people and putting implants in them, and it is a sign or a seal of ownership. Okay? They feel that they own you. Now, the Greys have done this a lot because the United States government gave them permission to do it. You know, we were sold out, basically. That's what I know. I do know that many of the implants can be neutralized using a very strong ultraviolet light. Anybody else? Gosh, you guys are getting crowded over there.
I'm sure I speak for all of us. She mentioned earlier that this was a treat for you. It's very much a treat for us as well.
Thank you.
Okay, I have two questions. They're relatively unrelated. The first one, if you get an opportunity later on and have time, I would be very interested in hearing, but the second one is what I would like to ask you about. The first one is, you mentioned that the Andromedans know Ramtha as the commander. Are there any other beings that they have mentioned, and does this in any way tie in with why other races, along with the Andromedans, regard us as special? That's if you get an opportunity later on. The second question that I want to ask you is, the Andromedans have mentioned several changes about to occur, what Jay-Z referred to. Sovereignty is a major concern for many of us. Many of these changes are going to represent financial opportunities as they unfold. I know that dates and specific levels or prices are mutable and subject to change, but have they given you any signposts or preliminary events to watch out for that indicate that change is imminent or about to happen? Thank you.
The earthquakes are changes, are signs. The volcanoes are signs. When you start to see large groups of people resigning from world government, that will be your biggest sign that shit's about to hit the fan. Okay? Many of our world leaders have been promised underground facilities, and some even on the moon. And folks, there are bases on the moon that were built by the United States, Russians, and the British, using British money. And I would suggest to you very, very strongly, you keep an eye on Charles, Prince Charles. Okay? Just watch. No, Just watch. Then don't. Next question, please. Next question, please.
When you spoke about the transition between going from fourth to fifth density, how are we going to know that we made that transition?
Okay, that's an easy question. Okay, we live in a color spectrum of 72 frequencies, or 72 colors. When you get to fifth density, there are 223 different frequencies and colors. You will see colors you have never ever seen before, and it'll be just like that. And you know you will be there. Okay? Yes, sir. I mean, when McDonald's has purple arches, then you'll know.
Do the Andromedans have a military, and do they have a financial system, anything like ours?
Okay, great question. No, they have no financial system. Everything that they create technologically is used for the advancement of their race. It is for educational purposes only, but it can be used in defense. No, they do not have an army or a military per se. They are scientists. What they do is they send their children to school from anywhere from 150 to 200 years. This is our time. Well, you know, they live 1,000 years, 1,500, 2,000 years. And what they do is they teach their students all of the arts and sciences. They are literally PhDs or masters in everything. Then at that point, they have the choice as to what it is they want to do. And they can change their minds in a heartbeat and do something else. So they are given all the tools. Everything is for education. Nothing is for distraction. Okay, they would never conceive of creating television as a distraction. Never. Okay, everything is to help them evolve. And their science and their technology can be used in defensive purposes, mostly the holographic stuff. Yes, sir.
I'm wondering if you could elaborate on the Dracos and Hale-Bopp a little bit.
What I have shared is really all that I know. I just know that life is going to be very different. It is, they say it's a comet. It's not a comet. I can tell you this, that it has split into two pieces, and both pieces are rotating, okay, around an invisible axis. They're rotating like this as it's moving. And something that a friend told me that she heard on Art Bell, and I have not confirmed this, okay, so this is still rumor, but apparently an astronomer was on Art Bell, and he called and said that they have seen a large craft that is now flying alongside Hale-Bopp that's larger than the Earth. Okay? So if it doesn't change course, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. All the denial is going to be gone. You know? Yes?
I understand the Andromedans have a version of the story of Enki and Enlil, and I'm wondering if you could tell us anything about that.
Oh, that's a long question. Long answer. Actually, my understanding is that the two brothers have really warred with each other over a lot of other issues. We just happen to be one of them. I do know that Enki, what they've told me is that Enki was betrayed and killed, and that his body is literally buried in the face that's on Mars. Now, whether he's reincarnated or not, again, I don't know. But that's all I know. Basically, what we have to deal with now is Enlil. But fortunately, you know, truth is starting to come out about all that, and people are waking up and you know, realizing and seeing the contradictions in the Old Testament, and even some of the contradictions in the New Testament, and they're starting to question, which is a very, very good sign. You know, Phaseus once said to me, "It is not so important what you believe, but as to why you believe it. And whatever your belief is, make sure that it is worth the depth of your commitment to it." And, you know, I think what we've done as a race is we've accepted a lot of things just on face value without truly investigating it or trying to feel it inside of us. And it's gotten us into a lot of trouble. For example, the Inquisition. You know, the Inquisition was really an attack against women. That's really what it was about the sacredness, the Wicca of women, and the science that they held, the spirituality that they held. That's really what it was about. A lot of men got killed because they were supportive of the goddess worship. You know, and that was a huge travesty on the human race. Just one of many. Next question.
This scenario that you're laying out before us exists on this reality, on this parallel reality, or this timeline. What if the Andromedans say about parallel realities where this scenario doesn't happen?
He's not going to like my answer. They haven't said anything. I know that there are parallel realities, and I know that Earth, that several parallel realities of Earth are already in existence in the higher octaves above us. I know that in one of the realities, the New World Order is already established and exists. And, you know, the Nazi flag flies over the whole world. I want you to know that as third density begins to implode, that all of those realities will be moving and merging into the one. Okay? Because the reality of which those two were created is the one we're on. And all the other ones will be returning to source. Now, they've said that the New World Order will come into reality here, but for a short time as we keep moving. As long as we stick together, as long as we help one another, as long as we have mutual respect for each other, we will not slow down our process as we move up, you know, into the higher dimension, or just to a higher consciousness of world unity of our free will, not being forced at the point of a gun to do it, or not having to relinquish your rights. You know, I mean, here in the United States, you know, a lot of people are worried about the Russians, they're worried about the Hong Kong police and the New World Order. Let me tell you something, folks. You're losing your country in the courtroom every day. It's in the courtroom with corrupt judges and institutionalized corruption. And I'll tell you what, if you allow, this is my own little political statement, if you allow the Congress and the President to take away the Second Amendment, you will lose all your other rights. I don't believe in toting a gun, carrying a gun, and killing anybody, all right? But the Founding Fathers knew about corruption, and they knew about tyranny. And the reason the Second Amendment is there is to protect all the other rights. And until we consciously make the shift and change everybody else's perspective, I'm afraid, from my perspective, it's a necessary evil. But that's my perspective, okay? You know, I mean, America, you have done so much in such a short amount of time. But you have to understand that when you're a draconian or Orion belief system, there is no such thing as free will, as self-rule in their control. Now, the reason we've been able to get away with it for so long is because, you know, when you look at where we are to the center of the galaxy, we're in the boonies. You know, we're way out here. And they're just now starting to come around, and they realize that the magnetics of the planet, the consciousness of the planet, is starting to change. So they, you know, this is what has attracted a lot of the races to us now. It was also the blasting of nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons not only affect third density, but they affect fourth and fifth. It sends a shock wave through it, okay? And we were totally irresponsible. We didn't know. We didn't know what we were doing, you know? And that's why a lot of the races started to show up. I mean, they'd been here sooner, but that's when they really started to come in mass. Like, what the hell's going on down there? You know? Next question. Again, I've only got pieces of the puzzle.
I've had a contact a number of years ago, and I know a lot of other people here have, and it was both very powerful and loving, and yet there was also some fear with that. Many of us are now thinking about how can we make contact that feels safe, evolving, loving. Mm-hmm. Can you speak to that?
I'm asked this a lot, and all I can suggest to you is this. You can literally be and create anything you want. If you want contact, then what I would suggest you do, and this is really the only suggestion I have, is you create the space for it. Now, if you're very comfortable going into the woods, going on a walk and sitting on a rock someplace where you're totally isolated, and you're there and you call them down, and that works for you, that's fine. Okay, if you want them to come visit you at your home and you set up a specific time and you make tea and you wait for them to come, that's another thing you can do. It's entirely up to you, okay? But create the space. Show the intent to do it and be in integrity with it. In other words, for that hour or 2 hours that you decide to create the space, do it all the time. Make it always 2 hours. Make it always 2.5 hours. Do it once every 2 weeks, whatever you want. Whatever ritual you want to make it in order to create the space, then that's what you do. Okay? That's the only suggestion I have for you, wherever you went.